Well, welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. This week, helping me tackle all the biggest headlines is royal authors Charles Ray and Hugo Vickers, who have quite the history together. You guys you used to see each other on royal tours. Is that right, Hugo?
Well, I'd rather think the state visit to Pakistan and India.
Oh, wow. Wow.
97. I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah, there's been a couple. There's been a couple.
Yes.
The reason why I thought you two were perfect to discuss this is because I thought you would probably have some real memories.
Prince Harry may still be family, but should he still be invited? That's the question royal experts like Kinsey Schofield are weighing in on as talks begin around Peter Phillips' upcoming wedding.
Of how you felt at the time when we found out that Princess Anne, somebody had attempted to kidnap her. There was this man, he's now freed, reportedly working to clear his name, named Ian Ball. He was 26 years old at the time when, according to reports at the time, he launched a violent ambush, blocking the princess's car and shooting four men who tried to stop him. And of course, Anne, unshakable, allegedly says when he tries to get her to get out of the car, not bloody likely. First of all, Hugo, how the heck did they leave this out of the Crown? How the heck do you leave this out of the Crown? This is like one of the most insane stories. He's trying to clear his name. I don't even think we need to go into what he's saying because it sounds ridiculous. I think he has mental health issues. But talk me through what that was like at the time.
Well, that's a very interesting question about the Crown, because actually I have said this before. There are a couple of things that were left out of the Crown. This particular incident, and also the incident when somebody fired blanks at the Queen.
Yeah.
The simple reason is because they came out of it so well. Princess Anne said she wasn't going to get out of the car, and the guy didn't have a plan B. If you want to see it, it's well worth watching. You can find on YouTube very easily the Michael Parkinson interview with Princess Anne. If you put Michael Parkinson, Princess Anne kidnapping, and she's absolutely, you just get such an impression of what she's like and the caliber of the woman. I mean, she was brilliant, and it must have been really frightening. He claims she wasn't frightened. I mean, they must have all been frightened. Certainly the lady in waiting was. She disappeared behind a tree.
Oh, wow. And Charles, what was that like to cover?
It was quite amazing, Kenzie, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you don't expect to be getting phone calls telling you that there's been a kidnap attempt, and as you quite rightly say, four men, one of them being her police bodyguard, and a lovely guy called Inspector Jim Beaton, who I knew reasonably well. And Mr. Ball, Ian Ball, the so-called kidnapper, was very, very lucky, because if Jim's gun had not jammed, he would be dead. Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, it had everything. There's this story. You had a royal in the back of a car with her then husband, Mark Phillips, and a lady in waiting. Jim Beaton was in the car. The chauffeur was in the car, and this idiot, which surprised me that there was no backup car. There was no backup police. In those days, it didn't really matter. And he swerved in front of the royal car, and forcing it to stop, then jumped out with his gun and tried to pull, Princess Anne out of the car. And we know what she said, not bloody likely. Beaton got out the car, drew his weapon, which I think was a Glock pistol, not a pistol. It fired once, and he was going to fire again, but it jammed and Ball shot him. He also shot the chauffeur and two other policemen. Now there was another guy who was a newspaper man who used to work at the Sun and the Daily Mail, who happened to be walking by, who intervened as well. He too was shot. And then this tussle is going on, and along comes this brawny guy, a boxer, who just laid him out flat. I mean, it was that simple. He just went up to him and punched his lights out. And Ball was arrested. And as we now know, in 1974, he was locked up in a mental institution. And it's only recently he's been released. And he's coming out with all these counterclaims now, saying he's trying to clear his name. But it's never going to happen. I mean, you're right. He still has mental health issues.
Yeah, but I think for 1 second I thought I'm going to ask you what was his point, and then you nailed it right. Mental health issues. There was no real point.
There's no, I mean, Hugo talked about a plan. No, there was no plan B. I don't actually think he had formulated a plan A, to be perfectly honest. I don't know why he was doing it. I don't think anybody's got to the bottom of why suddenly he decided on that day, I'm going to try and kidnap, Princess Anne. And let's not forget, he actually rang up the palace
What?
to find. He'd rung up the palace to find out where she was that day, and they told him,
Oh God.
it never happened today. So they just said, oh, she's out to dinner or she's gone to a theatre or whatever it was she was. And so he just stalked out the mall, waiting for the car to return. I mean, royal cars and those as they are today are quite distinctive. But now, a royal goes out, they have motorcyclists, they have a backup car, they have all the sort of security that you would expect a VIP to have.
I think the plan A, if there was one, was a ransom money he wanted, wasn't it?
Yes.
And he would have had a terrible time if he had kidnapped her, because she would have given him a really hard time. And I do happen to know that it was as a result of this particular incident that they then brought in the backup cars. I mean,
Sure.
security became very much stricter. They hadn't had to worry about it too much. But it must have been very shocking for the Queen and Prince Philip. They were out in, near Australia or somewhere at the time, I think, and they had to be told of all this. And of course, I guess nobody really knew what was going on.
Oh wow.
And in fact, the boxer who received a medal, as did all the other guys who received the medal, when he got his medal from the Queen actually said to him, "I thank you, as the Queen, but I also thank you as a mother."
Oh,
Yeah.
For what he did.
that's so sweet. Well, that's interesting, Hugo, that it's changed the strategy for security, the security that we see for the royal family even today. Have there been any other strict or dramatic changes in the strategy of royals, probably post Princess Diana, or no?
I think probably post Mountbatten being blown up by the IRA, I think then there was a lot of extra security, because I may have told you this, but once I had to deliver some programs to Royal Lodge when the Queen Mother was there, and I literally just drove up to the gate and I said, I've got the programs, and it was on a Saturday evening, and they said, fine. And so in I went, and I'd never been there before, and I eventually drove up to what looked like the front door, and the door was open, and there was a small figure with two dogs, so the hat pulled over its head. It was quite clearly the Queen Mother. She disappeared into the house, and I drove up, and although the door was open, I rang the doorbell, and a figure came out, a page came out, a footman, and took the programs. I said in a loudish voice, I've just come to deliver the programs. And the Queen Mother popped out of the drawing room and said, thank you so much. But I mean, if you think about it, if I'd been an assassin, I mean, I could have actually. I mean, it would have depended when she was active. Anyway, the point is that a lot of security changed after the Mountbatten incident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but you're not very intimidating, Hugo. You're kind of cuddly.
They didn't know that.
Yeah. You know what it's totally unrelated, but it sent me on a, Charles, you'll probably appreciate this, having worked for a beautiful paper that you could touch and feel and see. But I went on this tangent of looking at old pictures of Princess Anne, and she was hot stuff when she was
Oh,
young.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how gorgeous and like sexy she was.
No, she was. She's very gorgeous. So let me tell you one little story, and that's a friend of mine who worked at the Daily Mirror, and he and a photographer were deputed to stake out Princess Anne with her latest boyfriend, whoever it was. But they had a sports car, one of these little convertible things, and they saw Anne and the chap get into the car, and it wouldn't start. And of course, the chap got out and said, "Oh, to Terry and the photographer, oh, could you give us a push to get it started?" So they gave them a push to get it started. And as they rode off, sort of waving in the background, Terry looked at the photographer and said, we better keep this quiet because we have not got a picture or a story. So, it was never revealed that they had actually helped Princess Anne when in actual fact they should have been clicking away and taking pictures and, a great story about how Anne's car had broken down and everything else. So it was kept very quiet.
Well, I think that that's such a good reflection on them and the industry as a whole because they get kind of a bad rap when
Well, it wouldn't have been a good reflection with their editor, who I think would have given them their marching orders.
yeah, exactly. But Prince Harry doesn't like to hear those stories because you guys are always supposed to be the bad guys. Kind of staying on the Princess Anne theme a little bit. What can you tell me, Hugo, about Peter Phillips? Because of course he's all over the place because he's got this gorgeous new fiance. So tell us a little bit about him.
Well, of course, he was the first grandchild of the Queen and Prince Philip. And the main thing that I know about him is that he was an incredibly good help to William and Harry in that dreadful week after their mother was killed. He was up at Balmoral and he was a little bit older than them, obviously. And he was the great mainstay. And I remember also that he read the lesson shortly afterwards at the Queen and Prince Philip's golden wedding service. So I think he's a kind of a good sort. If I could just, on the Princess Anne thing about her glamour, just to add one tiny thing,
Yeah.
I always thought it was when Diana came along that liberated Princess Anne to be an executive princess, as opposed to, the glamorous princess that people always expected princesses to be. And I mean, I think since then, she's really proved herself to be an incredibly executive person. I think she's much more comfortable in that role, but she certainly was very glamorous, no question about it.
What a great point. It gave her the freedom to allow, she's like, this is your role now. I'm actually going to pursue things that are meaningful to me. And I don't have such bizarre standards whenever I walk out of the house now.
And their message is clear. Inviting Harry would be a massive mistake. Why? Because the royal drama he brings with him could turn a joyful family celebration into another Sussex media storm. For those who don't know, Peter Phillips is the eldest grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, son of Princess Anne, and cousin to both Prince William and Prince Harry. Known for keeping a low profile and staying out of the royal spotlight, Peter is preparing to remarry, and the guest list is now a serious point of contention behind palace walls. Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield says inviting Harry could jeopardize the entire atmosphere of the event. Why? Because Harry doesn't just attend, he brings global media attention, controversy, and personal baggage. In Schofield's words,
I know that there's been a little bit of scandal when it comes to Peter Phillips. He's actually the perfect example of why you can't be, and he's not half in, half out. He doesn't have a title, but it's almost the example of like how royals, DNA or not, title or not, are held to a higher standard. So you have to be super careful. You can't be like selling milk. And was it Japan? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was Japan that he was selling. So as his sister, Zara as well. I mean, she received sponsorship from places like Land Rover, Range Rover, a very high prestige type car. But you have to remember these two are not on any royal payroll.
Right.
They're like us. They have to make a living somehow or other, and it's a glamorous way of making a living. I mean, Zara is an accomplished horse rider, show jumper, and dressage and everything else, and Peter is a businessman, and he gets on with life. But going back to the point of their roles within the royal family, they don't really have a major role. They don't do royal duties. They don't perform for us. We only really see them at events where it's a family matter, like Trooping the Colour, or a family birthday, a family celebration of some description. And I've noticed through the years that Peter always gets and always has had a very, very warm reception from all the senior royals, from the Queen, Prince Philip, now Charles and Camilla. I mean, he is quite central to everything. And I think he's still close. I don't know how close he is to Harry now, given what has happened with him, but he's still very close to William, as is Zara. I mean, there was a lovely picture of Zara the other day when Charles went horse racing, that she ran up behind, almost ran up behind him and put her hand on his shoulder, and he turned round, and it was Zara, and it was, all kisses and cuddles and everything else, which was a really nice family, situation. I mean, I quite like Peter and Zara for what they've done and for what they've accomplished. Sure, there've been a couple of, minor
Hiccups.
scandals, hiccups. Yeah, hiccups is a great word. But nothing that's nothing that's happened in that royal family. They're well out of it.
Yeah, Hugo, it's disappointing that Harry and Meghan don't look at things like the Sophie and Edward pivot, where there was the fake shake scandal, and then the Queen is like, no more half in, half out. Or they don't look at the milk example with Peter and go, okay, based on the consequences that I saw that these people historically had to deal with, I want to craft a different path. It's like they're running into the same issues instead of learning from examples that exist so clearly out in the universe in the history books.
Well, I mean, they've just gone bounding into all that, haven't they? I mean, to the detriment of everything else. I mean, that's exactly what they do. I mean, I think Peter Phillips probably thought that nobody would see that advertisement because it was done in Japan, and of course, everybody sees everything these days. You can't keep anything secret. So yeah, no, I mean, they literally have. I mean, it's very very disappointing. Charlie will remember that, in England, we used to have these placards for the evening paper which said Queen's cousin in trouble or something. You bought it eagerly, and it was always somebody you'd never heard of, who happened to be a cousin of the Queen. So, if they can possibly sort of link anything to the royal family, they do. And that's where occasionally, I suppose, Peter and Zara have got into a little bit of trouble. If they were doing that for Harry and Meghan, they'd be on the front of those placards every day.
Every day, yeah. I mean, we should stress that Peter Phillips and Zara are actually pretty pristine when it comes to members of the royal family that have likely disappointed the Queen, or grandchildren of the Queen that disappointed her the least. I think that they would probably shine in that department compared to some of the other things we've seen. Hugo, is it okay if I read this thing from the Daily Beast, or do you disagree with it so much you don't want me to repeat it?
Please read away.
Okay. According to the Daily Beast, Peter's nickname behind his back in the family is King Peter. That nickname, Tom Sykes was told by a friend of the family, comes from the fact that when Peter married his first wife, Autumn Kelly, he required her to formally leave the Catholic Church in order for him to retain his place in the line of succession. Under the 1701 Act of Settlement, marrying a Catholic would have meant being struck off. So Peter stayed in line, and thus King Peter was born. I think he's 18. Do you believe that, Hugo, or do you think that's silly?
Well, I mean, we know he did that. He wouldn't have had to now, of course, because that part of the Act of Settlement has been changed, and all those that married Catholics have come back into the line of succession. Lots of people have different nicknames. He may well be called that under certain circumstances. Of course, you can see a situation where he could end up as king, I suppose, because if anything happened to the Waleses, and we decided that. Well, I say we, the British government decided that actually Harry and Meghan were absolutely out of the question, and Prince Andrew and his family were out of the question as well.
Wow. I haven't ever thought about that.
Yes. So, these things can happen. So he wants to keep his options open, obviously. But of course, the other thing, which is a great myth, is that Princess Anne decided not to give her children titles.
Oh, tell us about that.
Well, George V, when he originally changed it to the House of Windsor, he said Royal Highnesses were the sons and daughters of the sovereign and the sons and daughters of sons of the sovereign. And that's why Princess Mary's children, Princess Margaret's children, Princess Anne's children didn't get any titles from their mother. In the case of Princess Margaret, they created Anthony Armstrong Jones and Earl. So that's where their titles come from. So the only way you could say is, well, Mark Phillips, I don't know whether he was offered a title or not, but they obviously decided not to take it.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Ray, you just mentioned how close Peter Phillips was to both of the boys, which of course has generated whispers that potentially, I know that it's like we say it so much that we wish we could remove it from our vocabularies, but there could be a potential royal reunion at the Phillips wedding. I'm so glad you immediately went there because I wanted to say,
No.
like, I don't think Prince Harry will attend, and I'd love for you to expand.
Whether Prince Harry attends or not, there just will not be a reunion. I mean,
Yeah.
for a start, I doubt very much if Meghan and the children would be at the wedding in any case. It would be so wrong for her to just turn up, and she will be in an area full of people who clearly don't have much time for her. So I don't think she's going to put herself in that situation of being the odd one out. I mean, Harry could end up being at the wedding, but I suspect it's going to be very much like he has done before. He would fly in for that. I mean, it is his cousin, so you would expect him to be there, as he was for Lord Fellow's funeral. So I would say, yeah, he's possibly going to be there. I mean, as I say, I don't know how close Peter Phillips is still with Harry or whether they still talk to each other, but you would expect him to be there. But as far as any royal reunion goes, I mean, I'm of the opinion that this tale of a royal get together of a rapprochement on both sides, it's never going to happen. It cannot happen. You cannot have the king trusting his wayward son ever again. In my view, it's certainly not going to hold much water with William. I mean, who has lost his temper, lost his patience with his brother, which is a great, great pity because those two guys could have, been a force of good and, nature all the way through. So I'm not someone who thinks that it's ever going to happen. He might turn up, but it will only be a quick flying visit. I mean, I suspect he'd be going after the second glass of champagne.
Hugo, what is your verdict? Do you think that Harry would even attend? It was recently that like one of his dear friends got married and he didn't show. So I'm wondering if he would even make an appearance at this wedding, knowing how tense things have become. I mean, post that BBC interview where he contradicts himself by saying someone is out to get him, alluding to his family, and then minutes later saying he's desperate for to reconnect with his father.
Well, the bride and groom would be very unwise to invite him because it would be a big distraction from their happy day, apart from anything else. But that's the trouble with him when either of those two, if ever they appear, people just focus on them. And in happier times, if you remember, was it Pippa Middleton's wedding, I think, that Meghan Markle didn't even go to the wedding out of politeness in the days when she was behaving well. She just went quietly to the reception. I think it might have been Pippa, I'm not
It
sure.
was. You're right. You're right.
It was one of those weddings. And so, to that degree, who would want him there? He'll just be a distraction. And so, and it'd probably be a very small wedding anyway, because it's a second wedding. It's not likely to be a big event.
Well, have you seen Meghan Markle's second wedding?
Well, that was, yes, you're right. You're right. That was a bigger event than her first wedding. I have to, I bow to your superior memory of these things.
Well, the first one had marijuana, so some might consider that the most fun wedding of the two. Although the second one had Idris Elba DJing, so that's pretty cool too. Let's move on to Meghan Markle because I know this is Hugo's favorite topic. God love him. I'll start with you though, Charles. Have you ever in your life seen somebody that celebrates themselves as often as Meghan Markle does? Mother's Day, there was Meghan wishing herself a happy Mother's Day on Instagram. And now for her birthday, can I read you this post?
Sure.
It's clearly Meghan to me and to Tom Sykes of the Daily Beast, celebrating the woman behind it all, says her As Ever brand page. She pours her heart, vision, and magic touch into every detail. And today, we raise a glass to her. Happy birthday to our founder, Meghan. Does that not give you goosebumps?
No, it doesn't. What it says to me is, please pass the sick bucket. I mean, it's just appalling. I mean, if she didn't do it herself, then there's some sycophant in her office was trying to get, some brownie.
A bump.
Yeah, trying to get some. We call it brownie points. You call it a bump, but it's the same thing. To curry favor with her, but I'm like you. I wouldn't have put it past Meghan to sort of nudge nudge wink wink shove this on the site because it will have been the only royal or the only message that she would have got from any members of the royal family. I don't think they would have even recognized the fact that she was 44. And it's Meghan all over again. This is her. This is how she does things, and it's as you mentioned, Mother's Day and everything else. Isn't it amazing how many black and white pictures she manages to produce, throughout a year?
Harry has made himself a source of division. Weddings are meant to be peaceful, personal, and joyful, not political minefields. Beyond family drama, there's a bigger issue: trust. Experts say many in the royal family no longer believe Harry can attend a private event without it ending up in a book, documentary, or interview. Let's not forget, details of past events, including Prince Philip's funeral and Queen Elizabeth's final days, ended up in Spare. The family is asking, could the same thing happen with Peter's wedding? And then there's Prince William. He and Harry haven't reconciled, and insiders say the tension between them is still high. Placing them at the same private event, especially one surrounded by press interest, would be, as Schofield put it, a royal gamble with everything to lose and nothing to gain.
They're all sort of stage managed pictures and everything else. I mean, everything they do, it's the opposite of touching things and turning to gold. They're the exact opposite. It just turns to dreadful stuff.
Hugo, do you think Prince Harry is becoming, like a pretty good photographer based on all of the pictures of Meghan Markle that have been circulating lately on social media? Because she can't have a photographer around 24/7. Do we think it's Harry chasing her around with an iPhone 16?
Well, he hasn't got anything else to do, has he? One must remember that the 4th of August will always be a red letter day for as far as royal birthdays are concerned. And I don't mean Meghan Markle. It was actually the 125th anniversary of the birth of the Queen Mother, and it used to be very well celebrated. So I think that rather eclipses her particular day. But anyway, that's just my opinion. No, he may well be running around taking photographs. I mean, as I say, he's got nothing else to do.
I know you weren't surprised by her wishing herself a happy birthday. She also posted a picture around a dinner table, blowing out a candle, thanking Prince Harry and thanking all of her fans for the love and support. Do you just think to yourself, don't you have better things to do? Like, or shouldn't you be doing anything else than, another victory lap? Just seems like she's constantly celebrating herself.
I mean, that's what she has to do, isn't it? As we've said many times before, she's the celebrity, so she has to keep reinventing herself, and as none of the things that she does seem to work out very well, she's always coming up with a new idea. I mean, full marks to her ingenuity in keeping going and her stamina, but that's what she has to do. Whereas the rest of the royal family just get on with their lives, and they're doing things for us, not for themselves, and they don't expect that sort of treatment.
I agree with Hugo. I don't mind. It's a birthday, so it's fine. She celebrates a birthday like we would all celebrate our birthdays, our friends' birthdays, our family birthdays. But this constant way she does it, it's not woe is me. It's me. I'm the queen here and everything else. She still thinks that she's got some sort of real title or influence, around, and I don't think she has. Certainly not in this country.
Do you mind if I ask about the results from the investigation into Sant'Abale? They weren't flattering, but they weren't necessarily as damning as the initial allegations were from Dr. Sophie Shandaka. I'm not saying that Prince Harry is completely cleared in my mind and in my opinion, because the Charity Commission specifically says we don't investigate individual cases of bullying, but they said, charity-wise, they didn't see a pattern of that. But Hugo, I think this is still a hit to his reputation. Am I just being tough and judgmental?
No, it's just another thing that's gone wrong, I'm afraid. I mean, if I understand it rightly, he was trying to get them to apologize because of Meghan had been accused of seizing the microphone or something like that she does, which she sadly did again at the Invictus Games.
And at Kevin Costner's charity event. Remember, she tried to take the microphone out of a woman's hand on stage in front of God and everybody at a Kevin Costner charity event for firefighters in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, you see, that's the sort of thing she does. So I mean, it looks to me as though it's sad for him, because looking after those charities and the Invictus Games being the other one is where he's doing what he's actually been trained to do, and he's good at it. And but then it becomes a point where if she is involved as well, it's counterproductive, and it's he has to be distanced. And I mean, it's one of the things which, as you rightly say, has just gone badly wrong. And I wouldn't be surprised if other things similarly go wrong, because they must be, anytime they're involved in anything, it becomes very toxic, in my view.
And Charles, there's also the African Parks charity scandal, which is also
Yeah.
happening in the background. So it feels like a lot of these charities that he's associated with are having issues right now. The only one that seems to be thriving is Invictus. And
Yes.
there's almost a desperation for him to have the royal family involved in 2027. So he's got to be in this difficult position for when it comes to Invictus specifically, with these other charities falling to pieces. It would look so wonderful if his family were to be there in 2027. But as you said, I don't think the public would blame them for not showing up,
No, no.
considering the fact that anything they said would end up in a new book.
Nobody's going to be bothered that much if the members of the royal family, the king or even Prince William and Catherine, don't attend Invictus. I mean, I would, for me, the surprise will be if any of them actually turn up to Invictus Games. I'll be perfectly honest with you. But just going back to Sentebale for a second, this was his baby. He and Prince Cecil, they're the ones who started this off in memory of their mothers, which was full of praise for both of them for doing it, because it was helping young children suffering from AIDS and HIV. And it is a great shame that behind the scenes there has been a fallout between Harry and the trustees with the new chairperson, and accusations of bullying. Isn't it incredible that he's been accused of bullying? Although the Charity Commission say they haven't found anything, but they haven't investigated any charges of bullying. And you've still got on the books somewhere allegations of bullying against Meghan when she was still a member of the royal family at Buckingham Palace. So there clearly has something gone terribly wrong there. Now he and the charity committee, the other board members have walked away, which is a great pity, because I think that having him, like any member of the royal family, if you've got a member of the royal family, as a patron or someone who's high up in the rankings of that organization, that's where you're going to get your money to help the children. That's the point of it, not to feed egos. And I think it's a great pity that they've had to walk away. And will interestingly it will be very interesting to see how much longer Sentebale survive with no links to Prince Harry.
Well, Hugo, Charles makes a really great point about how Harry's involvement elevated this charity regularly, whether he was showing up. Although they said he showed up in 2024, but hadn't been there in 6 years. They said they felt abandoned after he met Meghan. But what the Charity Commission did say in their report was that the way that this drama was thrust into the spotlight in the media, which we all saw was Prince Harry making the first move, was incredibly damaging to the charity. So they're almost saying, like, you should have behaved differently. I mean, to me, that is pointing a little bit of the blame at Prince Harry, because he's made the first move when his team tells a London paper that he's out because Dr. Sophie Shandaka is impossible.
Yes, I mean, I think that's the problem, isn't it? He's now more trouble than he's worth. And I mean, I would hope very much that the charity can go on, that it's been set up, and that it exists as an entity. And if it's properly run by people who know what they're doing, that should be all right. I mean, as I say, I think it's become counterproductive having him involved, and that's the awful thing. I mean, maybe the same thing will happen with Invictus Games. I don't know.
Charles, you made a really sad point earlier when you talked about what could have been with Prince William and Prince Harry, and they've been fighting for so long that I hadn't even imagined that for a second in so long, just how powerful they could have been together and the good they could do together. Your jaw dropped when these two used to walk into a room together.
Sure.
It is so devastating when you actually sit back and think about the consequences of all of this.
I remember having a conversation with Princess Diana once about the boys, where she was convinced that when William was king, his number one man would be Prince Harry. She described him as William's wingman at the time. And if you look at it, and when William is king, the obvious person to be his advisor would be his own brother. That's not going to happen now, which is a great, great shame. And there would have been a powerful force together. I mean, you would have got William, Catherine, Harry, maybe Meghan. But but those three there would have been a powerful force for the future of the monarchy. That's not going to happen. I still think the monarchy is going to be fine in good hands with William and Catherine. But I think that Diana would be turning in her grave if she could see now what has happened between the brothers.
Hugo, final question, and thank you both so much for being so gracious with your time. If you can't have Prince Harry as your right-hand man, Catherine's a pretty great substitute. Don't you agree that she's got a great head on her shoulders? We understand that when Prince William gets upset, she calms him down. She knows exactly how to bring him down and how to intervene. I mean, she has to be one of the best assets that the future of the monarchy have going for them.
Well, I certainly agree with that. I think she's an absolute star. And then I think from every possible angle, the three children are also so popular whenever they appear. I mean, we all love them, and we think it's a great family. And occasionally Prince William is criticized for not doing as many royal duties as he should. But I mean, he's a modern father. He's very hands-on. He's doing school runs. He's going to matches, and he's in other words, I think that all the time that he is spending with his family will stop them from being a dysfunctional family in the way that sometimes the royal family has been accused of being in the past. He's going to devote a lot of time to those children. And from every possible respect, it seems to me that is paying off. So there's time for him to when he becomes king, he's going to be very busy, and Catherine, will be fantastic. It's an absolute given.
I love that answer. Hugo Vickers, Charles Ray, thank you so much for your time today.
One uncomfortable glance or cold shoulder could eclipse the couple's big day. There's an emotional side, too. Harry is still Peter's cousin. But Schofield and others argue that family ties alone shouldn't override behavior. After years of public betrayal, criticism of the monarchy, and ongoing media deals, the question becomes, is inviting Harry an act of kindness, or a risk not worth taking? In the end, Peter Phillips' wedding should be about love, family, and peace, not press, politics, or palace drama. And if experts like Kinsey Schofield are right, the best way to preserve that is by keeping Prince Harry off the guest list. Not out of cruelty, but out of respect for a day that deserves to be remembered for the right reasons.